you offered a prescription, David, in your column in the New York Times for this moment that we are in, and you called for a civic uprising. You said in this column, I want to read a bit of this, saying that the attacks that we've seen on institutions, quote, are not separate battles. This is a simple effort to undo the parts of the civilizational order that might restrain Trump's acquisition of power. So how would that civic uprising form?
Yeah, the core argument is that Trump is really about amassing power, and anything that might potentially restrain his power, he will destroy. And that includes the court systems, and anything part of that livens humanity, includes the universities, the scientific community, the truth, the media. And so far, we've responded to all these things, like NATO, and in separate lanes. We think the Fed is different than NATO, which is different from the universities. But my point is, there's all one thing. And if institutions and even sectors try to respond to this individually, they're doomed. Even Harvard, with $52 billion in its endowment, you can't do it alone.
Though that was a signal moment.
That was a crucial turning point because it changed the minds of everybody in every university I've talked to since then. They said,
oh, really?
Yeah. So
post-Harvard, they've all said.
A lot of them beforehand were like, well, Columbia made a deal, maybe that's right for us. Once Harvard came out, I talked to a couple of university presidents who said, oh, this is where we need to be. Because the Trump administration made it impossible for Harvard not to say no. And that's what we're dealing with here. And so the point I tried to make is all these different sectors have to get together and form one big civic movement. And it can't be political. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's not left versus right. It's institutions versus the destruction of our institutions of civilization. And if you look down through history, there have been social movements, these kind of civic uprisings, that have succeeded. They've banded together across sectors. They have a clear, simple message that appeals to a lot of different people. They use things like lawsuits, protests, boycotts, all sorts of things, strikes, anything they can do. But basically, if you're head of a law firm or a university, any of these institutions, you're dealing with administrations that's just about raw power. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how do we amass power so they're not dividing us, so we're dividing them? And that is a mass uprising. And the one turning point, if you look even at the civil rights movement, when you do a nonviolent protest and the people on the other side attack you with violence, that tends to weaken them. And then suddenly you're dividing them, Selma, obviously. And so this is the kind of way we have to think, that it's time not just to think, well, maybe he'll look at the other guy. It's time we're all involved, we're all in this together, and we're going to amass power together.